Small Scale Studios. We are going to look at our chair and table kit. If you haven't already, you can purchase this kit from our store in Etsy, Small Scale Studios AU. First, we'll have a look at what you get in your pack. Here you'll get it neatly packaged, cardboard to stop any damage, and masking tape down. Just simply peel it away and get all your pieces organised. So just be watching out for the cardboard decorations, they are a little bit delicate. First off, we're going to do the table. So we've got all the pieces of the table, just use PVA glue. You will see slots. They only go in one way, so just make sure you're putting them in the right way and allow it to dry. The edging on the table is a little bit difficult, so when you go to do it, take your time. Make sure you use masking tape as you go. So as you can see, it is a little tricky. You may choose not to use it, but I have given you extra in case you do damage bits and pieces, which is very easy to do. But the effect is worth it if you have the patience. So as you can see, masking tape down. Make sure you let that dry completely before you paint over and take the masking tape off. So as you can see, that's completely done and dry, and that's as simple as assembling it and gluing it on. So you can either use hot glue or PVA glue for the base. It's up to you. You don't really see it, so it doesn't matter which. Get your chair pieces. As you can see here, choose your fabric. You need tissue, hot glue gun. And the first thing you do on each of the semicircular bases is apply tissue. That is your cushioning. Just do it in stages until you're happy with the depth. It's up to you how puffy you want to make it, I guess. So here it is, looking nice and neat around the edges, and then all you do is wrap the fabric around. Don't worry about it not sticking, and you push it through the frame. Just let it sit there for a bit. And then we'll come back to that later. Then we're just going to, once we do this base, assemble the chair legs with hot glue. So same process here, glue, tissue, fabric on top, push it through the ring. And we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, here just look, you can use PVA glue and be very, very patient, but I'm just happy to use hot glue. Attach the strips of wood just to make sure you've got the depth right for each chair leg. Make sure they're pretty straight, and then leave that to one side while we work on the table a little further. Okay, so I use some watered down brown paint to create like a stain effect on the tabletop, the sides and the legs. It's up to you how dark you want it, but I would strongly suggest don't go too thickly with the paint because you're going to lose a lot of the details on the cardboard siding. So I go over it first, make sure all the cardboard's covered, especially the edges. And then as you can see there, I'm using a bit more concentrated paint just to create those dashes to make it look like actual timber. Have fun with it. There's a lot of different effects you can use. You can even use different colors like a bit of white, a bit of black to create imperfections. You might want to color it bright pink, totally up to you. And then I decided to dry brush some very, very cheap gold paint. Got this from IKEA. Couldn't recommend it high enough. It just gives a good finish. So I've just sort of gilded the edges of the table there. So it's looking good, and then I sort of meld it in with my fingers, go over it again. Just basically whatever you feel works for you. So that's looking good. I'm doing the edges in gold. But again, yours could look totally different. Also go over it with a bit of varnish. I just use household varnish, but you can use Mod Podge, or you don't have to varnish it at all if you don't want a sheen on it, which is sometimes it can ruin it. So it's completely up to you, but it does also add a little bit more strength by doing that, and let it dry completely. Here we are going to separate out the fabric from the chairs again. Now, just very quickly, please paint those frames before you reinsert the fabric. So as you can see, I've painted a bit of glue on the inside. I'm just going to reinsert that in. It doesn't stick very well, I've got to admit, but in the long run, it doesn't really matter. You might decide not to do that particular step. But what you do need to do is gently trim the sides. Try not to push it through too far, and obviously be gentle. You don't want to be breaking the frame, but you want to get it fairly flush, and then you want to just push it in that little bit more so the edges are a little bit in, but not too far, because then the fabric will come out the other side. This is tricky, but you know, you can have a bit of spare fabric and play around with it. You'll get there in the end. So I found that I painted the backing, and then I actually used the packing paper that comes with your kit to stick at the back. I wouldn't use anything more solid than that because it just won't work. You want to create like a nice aged effect. So stick it down, cut round the outsides, and then once you're happy with the look of it, paint it over with the same colour paint that you used for the frame. So obviously I'm going to use brown with a bit of gold. Look, it doesn't have to look perfect. I prefer that it doesn't, because you want it to look aged. But you know, you can use a pin, you can use your fingernails, you can trim it, you can play the crepe. The crepe paper is quite forgiving, which is great. So once you're happy with it, as you can see there, that'll do for me. Grab your paint and very gently, so you don't want to be pushing the cushion through, very gently go over it with your paint. So I've got brown, and there's a bit of glue there as well. Can't hurt to add a bit more glue. And then I use a bit of gold as well. Right, the final part is assembling it. I choose to use a hot glue gun, but you could use super glue. So a little bit on the base, doesn't have to be neat. Make sure the chair goes in and you're happy with the way the base is sitting. And then there's just a couple of tiny slots, just a little bit of hot glue there. Angle the back just a little bit. You don't want it to be completely upright. Try not to use too much hot glue because it'll end up looking chunky, and you can actually paint the hot glue if it is visible. It's not a problem. And there you have it. There is the chair. I've used a scalpel obviously just to clean up the bits and pieces. And don't forget to visit us on Etsy or Facebook to either go and get your kit or to see what else is available.